Terry Francona is not sold on Noelvi Marte, and, well, it's spring training. He shouldn't be.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr, and you are Locked On Reds. Today's show is brought to you by MLB The Show. Visit MLBTheShow.com/lockedon and use the code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Pre-order now available March 17th on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. And stay tuned later in the episode for our MLB Top 100 highlight. A little bit later on today's show, it is live. So, of course, we're putting you in the captain's chair, in the driver's seat. We're going to take your questions and comments and talk about all of the things that you want to talk about, because that's our favorite part of these live shows. We're also going to get into, in just a few minutes, the Reds pitching factory and how, once again, if you don't live in the tri-state area, you seemingly just don't know what you're talking about with the Cincinnati Reds, because all of the national guys are doubting the Reds pitching factory. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But where we are going to start is with right field. We spent some time talking about Noelvi Marte, how the job was seemingly still up in the air. And then in, of course, Locked On Reds fashion, Tito addressed the thing we were talking about, Jeff, and he went out there and said, yeah, that job's still open. It's up in the air. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things, but I need to see more, says Tito. What do you think?
Do we think that Tito watches the show? Like, are we part of his like regular podcast?
Yeah, but he's an audio guy. He's not on the YouTube. I don't think
he's an audio guy.
He's an audio guy.
You know, the audio is good too. No, I think it's hilarious, the timing of this. You're right. Like, we literally talked about Noelvi Marte yesterday, and who else talked about him yesterday? Terry Francona. And Terry Francona basically said, I'm not sold on him. In fact, Francona on Marte's game today, that was exciting for us. He got back on a really good play in the outfield. He took some really good swings off lefties. That was very encouraging. And most recently, he was talking about Noelvi Marte even before yesterday's game, and he was just like, there's more that he needs to do. Yeah, he's played 2 months in right field last year and this spring training. I don't think anyone, much less a grizzled veteran manager like our Terry Francona, would admit that he is absolutely the guy in right field before opening day. Now, make no mistake about it, he will be the opening day right fielder, but there's no reason for Tito to just be out there saying, oh yeah, he doesn't need to try any harder. He's absolutely got this job. Like, I think people are making too much of this is where I'm trying to get at it. And I don't think we're seeing any different plans on opening day than we expected 3, 4, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, I just don't see a lane where somebody takes the right field job away from Noelvi Marte. The only way he's not out there is if something crazy bad happens, and I'm not even going to throw those things out there. Not going to speak that into existence. But I am going to say this. Noelvi hasn't turned it on like gangbusters, but in a teeny tiny minuscule 30 plate appearance sample size out in Goodyear this spring, 276, 300, 621, Jeff, that's pretty good. But
what's that 621, Steve? Is that OPS slugging or slugging?
That's slugging.
That's just slugging.
That's just slugging. So,
yeah.
I look at these numbers and I'm like, Noelvi's doing the things he needs to do. Everybody gravitates towards these offensive numbers. And I said this when we talked about Noelvi yesterday. My bigger concern is what I see as a lack of progression defensively in the outfield.
Yeah.
I need him to work harder in the outfield. I need him to get better at his routes. I need him to not give me a heart attack every time there's a fly ball to right field. I need to not hear Chris Berman in my head from the old ESPN days going, he's rumbling, bumbling, stumbling to the wall. And then maybe he catches it. Maybe he does it. There's far too many plays where Noelvi's running down a ball where he's kind of running with that glove outstretched, and you're like, is he going to catch it? Is he not going to catch it? Is that ball anywhere remotely close to where that glove is? I don't know. Those are the things I would like to see go away. And I think that those just get better with reps. And I don't know what his training regime was like in the offseason, Jeff. I don't know if he worked out defensively with anybody wherever he was working out and doing his offseason stuff. But what I know is I'm not quite seeing what I want to see defensively for me to feel comfortable with him as the label of everyday outfielder, right? Everyday right fielder. Right. I don't see that when I look at him. So I want to see that get better. I think the offensive numbers are going to come along just like everybody else's offensive numbers are going to come along as spring training winds down and the season starts.
Sure. And I think that that's the important part about all of this, because that was something that Tito had mentioned after the game yesterday, is that he liked how he tracked a fly ball and he made a play that he needed to make. And I really feel like Terry Francona understands what's going on out in Arizona, because if you watch any game, not just a Reds game, but any game out in Cactus League play, if you are any at all questionable in the outfield, you're going to look silly at some point with that sky. And what they're saying is when there's a fly ball up in that sky with that sky as a backdrop, there are guys that are losing those fly balls and they're looking safe. It happened to the Reds. It happened against the Reds. It happens to other teams. It's not just Noelvi Marte. And so from that defensive standpoint, I think that that's key to know. But the reason that I shouted out the statistics and the reason that I had you repeat his slugging percentage is because there are people that are highlighting another guy who has played right field in spring training this year. And the stats that he has put together is, well, impressive. And as E4UX says, not to mention Rhys Hines is one of the fastest guys in the league and has a cannon for the arm. I can only assume that that is on top of an argument that Rhys Hines deserves this. So let's have some fun with this. Let's look at this. Rhys Hines, statistically in spring training this year, has a 400 batting average, a 444 on base percentage, a 920 slugging percentage. Those are video game numbers. Now, he has 3 home runs and he has 8 strikeouts to 2 walks. Steve, I'd like to do a little blind comparison here. And if you can see this on the screen, if not, we're going to also talk about this too. Player D 2026, that's Rhys Hines. Let's look at these other 3 players and let's see if anybody can name them, because all of them have experienced exactly 0 regular season success as a Cincinnati Red. Player A in 2011 had a 564 batting average, much better than Rhys Hines. 571 on base percentage, much better than Rhys Hines, and a 974 slugging percentage, better than Rhys Hines. 5 homers, that's more. 2 strikeouts, that's less. 2 walks, that's the same. Would you like to know who player A is, Steve?
I would like to know who player A is from 2011.
I would like to see your collection of memorabilia associated with Dave Sappelt. Can you show me?
He's not even a real guy.
Dave,
what are you doing?
Player B, 2014, batting average of 383, not quite as good as Rhys Hines. On base percentage of 396, not quite as good as Rhys Hines this year. Slugging percentage 681, not quite as good. 3 home runs the same, strikeouts less, walks less. This is a guy that we talk about a little bit every so often. Player B of 2014, his spring training, he is my favorite spring training player to talk about. Steve, who is that?
2014. You're going too far back for me, buddy. Give it to us.
Neftali Soto, the first baseman that never was.
Still making up names. Give me player C.
Dave Sappelt and Neftali Soto so far is who we're comparing to Rhys Hines here. Player C last year, 340 batting average, 404 on base, 574 slugging. None of those stats measure up to Rhys Hines, but he had 2 home runs, just 1 less, more strikeouts, more walks. That is, drumroll please, he is on the current roster actually right now.
Oh, I was going to say, is that Santiago? That needed to be Santiago Espinal, but I guess not.
That would have been fun. No, this is Blake Dunn. Blake Dunn is player C. And so I would like to point all of those out because spring training statistics don't matter. Because Dave Sappelt set the world on fire in 2011, and nobody remembers him except for our one commenter. You just threw his name up there. But I think it's funny because we try to do this, right? We try to evaluate this as fans. We try to look at numbers. We try to make decisions. There are so much more evaluating that is going on in the backfields and practice and all of the other drills that guys run every single day that when it comes to the statistics that we see, I can't even say that that is the surface of the evaluation. That is like the top of the icing on the cake, maybe the sprinkles on the icing on the donut. And there's just so much more to it that goes into spring training evaluation. And if you think that Reese Hines deserves that, the sprinkles,
icing
on the donut.
The sprinkles,
You may have had a cake donut with icing on it. It's like,
oh my God,
Steve, you're missing out.
Listen, Scott Campbell wants you to know that the thing that all of those guys that have in common are they're a former Dayton Dragon. So Dayton, Ohio, the machine of manufacturing spring training legends.
Exactly. But the point here is Noelvi Marte, opening day right fielder, Reese Hines is not in the conversation when it comes to, yes, I want a donut too, Scott. I don't know why I brought it up. That was a horrible idea, but I know this. When it comes to pitching on the Cincinnati Reds, we all feel really comfortable, really excited, not only about this year, but about future seasons. However, a poll was taken, and those around the league do not agree with us. We'll tell you why next. It's conference tournament time right now in college basketball, and FanDuel has got you covered for the best way to play when it comes to any conference tournament game. They've got the college basketball same game parlay profit boost. You got to check these out because it's going to take your picks and make them even more valuable. Of course, you can also check out the MLB futures because right now everyone's going insane when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds. They've knocked them down. They were at 82.5 when it comes to over-under for season total wins. Now they're at 80.5 for season total wins. Smash that over. I cannot even believe that they knocked them down this much. This feels like free money. Head on over to FanDuel right now. Hit 80.5 over on the total wins for the Cincinnati Reds in 2026. And check out all of the great profit boosts for your parlays for college basketball. That's all over on FanDuel. They're the official sports book of Locked On.
It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is, well, a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today.
Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your day, and appreciate you joining us here on this live edition of the show. Look, you already make us your team every single day. Now, take it up a notch. Go ad free. Join the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club at lockedonreds.supercast.com. And for $5 a month, $50 for the whole year, you'll get an ad-free feed. You'll get members-only Discord access and so much more. And you can use the promo code MARCH for a free month for the rest of March, if that's not obvious enough. Locked On Reds Everydayer Club. Go check it out today. All right. When it comes to the Reds, Steve, all we know is that they can pitch. We love the starting pitching. We love the improvements made to the bullpen. And honestly, there's some future guys that we're kind of excited about. And it seems as though Derek Johnson has a handle on things. I've called him a wizard. We have both agreed that when it comes to the Reds pitching organizational depth and development strategy, it feels like things are on the uptick. But I found this intriguing because Lance Brzdowski wrote an article about this. He polled 68 different industry people. Now, whether those are coaches or scouts or whatever, it's a mix. There's also front office executives and things like this. 68 different people, Steve. The Reds were not number one when it comes to pitching development and acquisition. They weren't number two. In fact, they got one vote from the 68 people polled as far as the best pitching development and acquisition in the league. Of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers were the number one team in this category. Fine, whatever, I get it. They get to be number one until somebody knocks them off of the pedestal in which it feels like they're just so high up on. I understand that, but what I don't understand is the fact that they are so far below everyone else. And I also don't I don't understand why they got 1 vote to the good, 2 votes to the bad. 2 of 68 said that they were the worst pitching development and acquisition team. Steve, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, I think there's some wonky criteria associated with this that maybe we're just not privy to in the way that the questions were presented, because you can't look at this team and have them with the votes they got in both of those categories. Now I could say I could see an argument if you wanted to look at the Cincinnati Reds and talk about they're not good from a going out and scouting and finding guys that nobody else is finding and developing pitching that way. Maybe that's the criteria. I don't know. But they are clearly good at finding the best pitcher on the board and drafting that dude and getting him into the system and bringing him along. So, I'm not quite sure where this ranks. I think it's probably just more of the national misunderstanding that is, what baseball thinks about the Reds. But I look at the Reds pitchers. There's pitchers that have come through the system that are on the active roster right now that I think are amazing, that, the Reds did a fantastic job with. There's guys in the system right now that I'm still looking forward to seeing. Scott Campbell hits on this just a little bit. Which young pitcher not on the major league roster are you looking forward to getting more than a cup of coffee? For him, it's Julian Aguiar. There's still guys down there. Chase Petty still could be very, very exciting. I know people want to look at what he did last season and dismiss him already, and that's very premature. There's relief pitchers down that won't be on the active roster to start the season that have the potential to be very, very good when they get extended opportunity later on, especially if they learn how to command and control the strike zone. So there's talent down there. Are they put that graphic back up for just a second? Are they the Dodgers? I mean, how much money are the Dodgers spending in drafting and development compared to what other teams are spending? I don't know that. Is it a record bias? Are they looking at, how many games these teams have won? Because the top of this list is the Dodgers and the Mets. We know what their major league payroll looks like. Are they out of proportion equally in their scouting and development and the things they're doing in the minor leagues to bring guys along? I don't know the answer to those questions, but it's a little suspect to me when 3 of the top 4 teams on the development side of things are the same teams that we know for a fact do not hesitate when it comes to their owner whipping out the checkbook and signing on the line to spend some money. So, you've got the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Yankees, the 3 of the top 4. Those are the guys that spend. So I would like to see more of what the criteria was associated with this. And I sure want to know why the Pittsburgh Pirates acquisition and development is rated so far ahead of the Cincinnati Reds acquisition and development, because Paul Skeens, that's it, folks. And, I could have got that one right. That's not a hard line to follow.
Well, and the other part about that too, like to your point, there would be some people, well, they're talking a lot about Bubba Chandler being a really good pitcher this year. They're talking a lot about Jared Jones, I think, but he's always hurt. He could be something. There's a lot about that Braxton Ashcraft. He could be good. The Reds got just as many dudes on their list that it's like, we don't know if they're good yet, but they could be good. And a lot of this was not just at the major league level. Like as we look at the poll again, it says best MLB plus MILB, so minor league baseball pitching development. So they're looking at the entire organization, and like there's some other guys that are in the next wave of Reds to come up, like Ty Floyd. Ty Floyd is going to be a very interesting player that the Reds got from LSU a couple of years ago. I'm interested to see how he pitches this season in the minor leagues, 23 years old. So, I mean, he could be moving through the system pretty quickly, and we might see him later next year. There's different levels to this where I'm just like, I don't know what people are looking at when it comes to the Reds and Missy. Because last season, and this was the part that you and I talked about a little bit before we got going here, you're like, well, what about wins? And obviously the Reds just barely made the playoffs last year. According to WAR, the Reds had the second best pitching staff last year behind the Phillies. And both the Phillies and the Reds were far down on these lists. So I understand to an extent like where you can make arguments for other teams, but there's so many teams that they have ahead of the Reds that I just feel like they don't understand. Right. As Sean Melvin points out, JP Ortiz, Starlin Torres, Jose Franco, who we've seen just a smidge of in this spring training. There's some guys that have not yet debuted that could be very key pieces, whether it be in the rotation or the bullpen. This was not just rotation based, though I'd have to admit, if you have a really good starting rotation, I'm sure it's weighted much heavier. But again, that should mean that the Reds are higher on this list. This is weird to me because I tend to believe that when you see somebody who called you a jerk in the morning, you saw somebody who called you a jerk. When you get called a jerk all day, then you're the jerk. And so for us to be sitting here saying that we think that they're awesome and absolutely everyone is disagreeing with us, I feel like we're missing something, but also I don't.
I struggle with this national perspective of Cincinnati, because you ask yourself the question, right? You and I talk about this team every single day. We're digging through stats, we're looking at results, we're looking at players, right. We're talking to people that are in the building, that they're in rooms, that they're we're doing.
We have Stockholm syndrome, is what you're saying,
and I'm wondering sometimes, because the level of difference between how the national guys talk about this team and how the people in the market talk about this team. I get that there might be a smidge of local bias. I'll allow for that. I'll allow for the love of this team that you and I have had growing up, watching it and following it bleeds in, right? It bleeds into the overall view of the picture, but not this much, not this bad. And I think that, I think that Ben hits on this really well. I think it's because the writers, the national level, are largely ignorant of the inner workings of the player development and of the inner workings of teams like Cincinnati that, aren't these large market, well-covered teams that are spending tons of money. I think that really factors into it. At the end of the day, this is just yet another piece of national coverage that does not dissuade me from thinking this team is much, much better than anybody at the national level is giving them credit for.
Steve, we used to be churning out guys like Asher Wojciechowski. We got better.
Well, you're a name factory today. You are just leaning in to every single fake name that this team has ever rolled with.
I'm glad you forgot about them.
I love it. Listen, you know that I spend a lot of time working in the medical field, and you have to be able to block out the bad. You have to be able to push that over there. And I can do that. I can do that with this team as well. But listen, Jeff, it is time to get into my favorite part of doing these lives. That is getting into the questions and the comments and letting the everydayers drive the ship. We are going to do that coming up next.
But first, I want to tell you about today's Locked On MLB Top 100 highlight, brought to you by PlayStation and MLB The Show 26, where you can get in and play with all of your favorite players like Hunter Green, where he won't be hurt to begin the season. And actually, Hunter Green checked in at number 43 in our Locked On MLB Top 100 list this year. And initially, I thought, man, he's going to shoot up these rankings. He's going to have an amazing season. I think I even said the words. He was going to have like 27 or 28 starts. Yeah, that didn't age really well. That didn't work out so well. But he could still be super valuable coming in the second half of the season and could still shoot up the list at least a little bit. But at number 43 on the Locked On MLB Top 100 list, he's the second Red on that list, and you can play with him, Ellie, Andrew Rabbit, Nick Lodolo, Eugenio Suarez, and everybody else over on MLB The Show 26. You can pre-order now through March 17th. It's available on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and X, and Nintendo Switch. Also, you can get a awesome Locked On pack to use in Diamond Dynasty. Go to mlbthe.show/locked-on and use the code LOCKEDON to get that pack today. MLB The Show 26 is rated E for everyone.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can check us out on all of the audio podcasting platform maps. We're pretty much on every single one out there. If we're not on one you need us on, message Jeff. He can probably get that done for you. We appreciate you being an everydayer. Click subscribe, click that notification bell. Listen, guys, we're going to be coming your way with tons of content this entire season. We're going to be doing some extra shows. We're kind of tweaking how that's going to look, but start preparing for the idea that there may be a pre-game Locked On Reds in your feed every day, followed by a postcast with Tim Daniel. The feed is going to be jamming with Reds content all season long. So subscribe today. All right, it's time for questions. It's time for comments. It's time to let the everydayers drive the ship, Jeff, because this is my favorite part of the show, and I want to get things rolling right away. Let's go right here, because I'm not sure what prompted this question. Did the Reds trade Ashcraft? No, but I wish that the old Ashcraft would show up. He has not had a tremendously great start to the spring this year. He's not appeared in a lot of games either. Jeff, are you still counting on Graham Ashcraft to be Group A of the Reds bullpen? You are?
Yeah, I have no doubts. I have no doubts about that. I think it's interesting because that's another area of caution that I would give to everybody is when you're evaluating a pitcher in spring training, just don't.
It always takes me back. Listen, and you know that I loved Amir Garrett when he was on this team. And when you talk about spring statistics, I just always go back to the spring that he struck out every single batter that he faced in the spring. And that was because he should have. They were all minor leaguers, and it did not translate into the regular season.
And I know too, the other example that somebody would want to throw, and I wonder if the comment section throws this up there, is Alexis Diaz from last year. It was clear that Alexis Diaz was not ready for the season. They still rolled him out there, and it didn't quite work out. But I don't see that with Graham Ashcraft. Like, Alexis Diaz had that weird problem where he was missing arm side, and it just wasn't finding the strike zone. And then when he was throwing a beach ball. That's not the issue here with Graham Ashcraft. Graham Ashcraft's issue is his fastball, his slider, everything breaks, and it's just not breaking as much as it is because it's not as crisp as it should be.
There are conflicting reports floating around online right now, folks, and I see you in the comment section that Graham Ashcraft has been traded to the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to keep looking for this. I don't see any of our regular sources reporting it yet, so let's just sit on that for a few minutes. But I see you guys in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I don't see anybody.
Well, I don't see any of our guys. I don't see any of our guys talking about it yet, so we're not ready to roll with that. But if it does come to fruition here while we're talking,
yeah, we'll keep you covered.
Yeah, I think it's fake. I don't think this is real. I think this is one of those things where people are just trying to generate some clicks for some stuff. But we'll keep an eye on it. If it pops back up from some of our trusted sources, we will we'll dig into that. But let's keep going with the Q&A because you guys have lots of fun things that you want to talk about. Yeah. So as I regroup from the potential of Graham Ashcraft trade, I don't think that's going to be a real thing. But
and just to yeah. Go ahead.
Here you go. Scott Campbell says, Jeff, how many of those jerseys do you have of the crazy fake names that you were talking about today? You think you probably have all of them? That's Ken. Our buddy Ken has all of those jerseys.
Yeah, that because look, I remember the Neftali Soto talk. I remember a little bit. There wasn't like talk about Dave Sappel, but like Neftali Soto was at a point where it was still Joey Votto, but Joey Votto was dealing with injury, and so they're like, "Is Neftali Soto going to be something for them?" And no. But that's what we do with different guys who go crazy, and you can pick a guy every spring training that has just ridiculous numbers. And then we won't really have any example of him working out in the regular season. It happens so many times.
Kim Long talks about glad CES got sent down, felt that he'd been terrible to this point. I wanted to talk about CES and how that relates back to Nate Lowe because, as we know, Nate Lowe lost his mom this last week. I think that he had to take some time away from the team to go deal with that, if I remember hearing correctly. But I still think that all of those things signal that Lowe has made this team, even though the final roster hasn't been announced. Are you still good with that assessment? Are we still going with Lowe as the last man on the bench?
I would be shocked if he did, because the moment that the Reds let him go, someone else is picking him up and putting him in their opening day lineup. Possibly. Like, I don't know that he breaks the Reds opening day lineup, but there could be an argument for it. But I think that he will be a key part of this bench for this season.
My man Ben coming in with the comments that lets me talk about my guy. Has McLean looked good enough to lock up the number 2 spot in the order? 100% absolutely. And Tito has pretty much just said that Matt McLean's going to be the number 2 hitter. So and unless he plays his way out of it at this point, he's looked really, really good. And I'm not delusional in that I think Matt McLean's going to go and have a 800 slugging percentage or whatever it is. He's hitting 500 right now. You know, spring training numbers, they're crazy. They're wonky. But man, he has looked comfortable. He has hit with some power. There's some pop in the bat. The shoulder looks great. Everything looks like Matt McLean is going to be much, much more the 2023 version, right? 2023 yes, version of himself, his rookie version of himself. I am excited to see what he does out of the gate this year.
Yeah, and I think that the key part is just how he looks. Like, again, we're not going to quote his stats because his stats don't matter in spring training, though it is kind of cool that he has 5 homers. But it's all about the quality of contact. He's had a ton of great power. And I saw a stat today, at least according to StatCast, he actually has more home runs, 5, than he does have swings and misses, 4. He's only missed 4 pitches.
Let's do that. Let's do that
That's
over the course of a regular season. How about that?
Well, if you do that, you're
you may
really,
set some
really
records,
good.
buddy.
Yeah.
You may set some records there. I like
more homers than swings
I'm
and misses. My gosh,
I'm excited about what a healthy, crushing it Matt McLean looks like for the Reds in 2026 because we are going to see him at shortstop a little bit. He's going to play a lot. They're taking, assuming health. There's not going to be very many games where Matt McLean's not in a game in one way, shape, or form, whether it's DH, shortstop, second base.
Over under 155 or 155 and a half over under games.
Oh, you said it probably a little high for me to just go immediately over, but what the hell, over. He's going to play, let's say he stays healthy and misses, 5 games during the course of the season. That's probably the number they'd be willing to rest Ellie as well, as long as he's healthy. So I see both of those guys landing about 157, Jeff Carr.
Well, and think too, like from Matt's perspective on this isn't necessarily like a pipe dream. Like last year was all about trying to figure himself out after that shoulder surgery. And this year he has said, ain't no more of that. So it's kind of like, and if you catch me muting my mic, it's because I'm still kind of coughing a little bit. It's kind of like after you get done being sick, the last thing you want to do is stay in the house. Like he is going to want to be out there on that field every single day. And as long as he is not mired in some kind of crazy slump, I think it's going to be close to that. So I don't think that you're that far off by being like, oh, immediately over 155 and a half games played for him, especially like you said, with him being the number 1 understudy there short.
Kind of going off into left field for a second. No longer Reds related, but Reds related. I did see this and I do want to talk about it for a second because we spent a lot of time talking about it when Jake was here.
That was awesome.
Jake Fraley's daughter. If you guys missed the news, we talked a lot about what was going on with Jake Fraley, the Fraley family, his young daughter battling cancer. Well, she kicked cancer's ass, folks. So good on her. What great news we heard out of Florida that Jake and his family are doing well. I was so glad to hear that.
And you know what? I hope he just goes nuts this year down there. Like there's a couple of different dudes that went from there's a couple of different dudes that went from the Reds to the Rays this year, but I really hope that Jake Fraley has just a big, big year as a Tampa Bay Ray. That would be awesome.
Now, thanks as always for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you so much. Go make your second listen. Locked On MLB in the audio feed. Sully's got you covered over there with Major League Baseball from a national perspective, talking about great things, telling funny stories. And also former Red Mike Stanton is in the Locked On MLB feed, talking about Major League Baseball from a player's perspective. 2 great shows in the audio feed. Audio folks, go check it out. For the video folks, we will redirect you to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national YouTube channel, where all of the experts of the Locked On network are talking ball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to give you your sports fix. We'll send you over there in just a minute. Until next time, we'll keep gathering up all the news, the notes, the rumors, the reports, the information to keep you Locked On Reds every single day.